Zhang Zhiyuan is a Chinese university graduate with top academic records. Over the past 4 years, he sent out more than 2,000 job applications, went to hundreds of interviews to find a job in Shanghai. But some of his classmates got jobs within weeks of graduation by recommendations from family members and other inroads. Zhang said sons of businessmen and daughters of officials got a head start that was equivalent to an entire level 2 around the competition track. It is inevitable that people like me would lose the race. So that made me think, why do I even try? Zhang joined the lying flat movement. He's not the only one. Actually, thousands of Chinese youngsters are joining the lying flat movement. What is this lying flat? Why is it popular among young Chinese? Shouldn't they be energetic, living the best time of their lives? The reasons behind this are very complicated. It might well reflect the biggest class conflict in China now. Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond the News. I'm Faye. This movement of lying flat from a blog post titled "Lying Flat is My Wise Movement." In that post, the author talked about his extreme minimalist lifestyle that he was adapting. He only works 1 to 2 months a year, keeping every necessity to the bare minimum. So he only needs 200 RMB, roughly $30 a month to survive. He even applied for an actor permit, so he would go to different sets and play dead people. That is his lying flat while making money. Soon enough, his post gained a lot of traction and followers among Chinese netizens. They expanded it into a more comprehensive lifestyle. The slogan is, "Don't buy property, don't buy cars, never get married, no babies," and even anti-consumerism. In a word, reduce one's desire to maintain the minimum level of living. You may ask, isn't that laziness, a negative attitude on social injustice? The answer is yes and no. As a young person myself, I want to dig a bit deeper about this issue. In my perspective, there are 2 driving factors for this movement, external and internal ones. Let's have a look at the current situation that Chinese young people are facing. The first thing a uni graduate faces is finding a job, right? From the data point of view, China's economy fell sharply due to the epidemic. Amongst the 8.74 million college graduates, the Chinese government announced that 25% of the recent graduates had found jobs. But we know that such stats from the CCP would always be a bloated number. But that's not the point for today. Let's say it is a true number. According to this ratio, there are still 6.5 million graduates who have not got a job. And this year, the number of Chinese graduates hit a record high, reaching 9.1 million. Adding together the remaining 6.5 million jobless youngsters from last year, currently there are 15 million college graduates who are jobless. In March of this year, the unemployment rate for young people aged 16 to 24 in mainland China was nearly 14%, worse than last year when the country was closed due to the epidemic. The number of people needing a job is increasing year by year, but to make matters worse, the number of jobs has been declining year by year. The number of urban jobs in 2018 was 13.6 million. In 2019, it dropped by 10,000, and in 2020, it dropped by 1.75 million. What can they do with so many college graduates competing for limited jobs? If you're lucky, you can go to deliver food. It is said that there are 60,000 master students and 170,000 undergraduates in the Riders of May 2, which is the Chinese version of Uber Eats. If you're not that lucky, you can only stay at home temporarily or find intermittent short-term jobs. So the whole society environment is actually imperceptibly pushing young people lying flat. In addition to employment pressure, the pressure of buying a house in China is even more daunting. According to statistics, since 1998, housing prices in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen has risen by about 15 folds. And the rate of increasing housing prices has far exceeded the rate of wage growth. In Shanghai, according to the 35% down payment requirement, if a young person with a monthly salary of 10,000 yuan wants to buy a 100 square meter house in Shanghai, he will need to work for 19 to 27 years before he can afford the down payment. However, having a house in China has become a mandatory requirement for most men who want to get married. According to statistics in China's third-tier cities, the cost of a man's marriage is at least 3 million. For many families, they simply cannot come up with such a large sum of money. However, just like Zhang said, there are lots of young rich second generation and official offsprings. These people can get jobs easily. There's another term in China called Najin. What is that? Let's take an example. If there is a large group of people standing together watching a parade. If the people in front wanted to see better, they would tiptoeing. When the people behind saw the person in front of him tiptoeing, he would also tiptoeing. As a result, more people behind him were also forced to do so. Consequently, almost everyone was tiptoeing. But because everyone is tiptoeing, those who can see the parade are still seeing it the same. Those who can't see much would still remain the same. So the tiptoeing does not change the result, but everyone will be tired from tiptoeing. This is a kind of internal fatigue or involution. In an environment with limited resources, insiders have to compete vigorously for survival. So in the end, people start to think, why bother? No matter how hard I try, I'm still no way near those rich kids. Why don't I just lie flat, reducing my desire and living a minimal life? This is one of the main reasons why Chinese young people is lying flat. It is a silent confrontation to this involution, and the reason is coming from the huge social class gap in China. The wealth is concentrated in the hands of a very small number of 2% people. This 2% rich people is taking 80% of the big cake of wealth. So 98% of the remaining ordinary people are competing for the 20% of the leftover wealth cake. The competition is so high for most people that whoever can grab a bit of it, they have to consume all of their strength to achieve that. But instead of grabbing that little bit of leftover with all their strength, isn't it better to give up and lying flat? So that is the most important external factor driving lying flat. Now let's look at the other perspective. What are some of the young people's own issues causing them lying flat? In China, students value academic results above anything else. Parents often say to their kids, all you have to do is to make sure your school records are good. We will handle everything else. Under this mindset, many Chinese students, all they do is study. Extracurriculums were considered a waste of time. Interpersonal skills were not important, and critical thinking were not developed. On top of that, parents would shelter their kids from anything distractive. But when the kids step into the society, most of them simply can't take challenges, since their parents are so protective. A friend of mine once told me he was glad to come out of China and have visited the West. His experience in the free world helped him to develop his own understanding of life and value systems. In China, while exam results count for everything, other interpersonal skills and mental development were neglected. Another important issue is that the internet is a complex and twisted giant network. Why would I say so? We're a generation born with the internet. The internet has brought people a lot of convenience, but the harm it does to young people is definitely not trivial. It is impossible to say that people, especially young people, will not be affected by the internet. In countries with sufficient resources, young people can always find what they like to do, and it would also be practical in useful fields such as literature, music, sports, food, science and technology, and even politics. You can exercise, play basketball, piano, etc. You can go travel to see the world. But in China, where resources are severely inadequate, studying hard is all they're supposed to do. Consequently, the internet has become the first choice for teenagers. They would be watching talent shows instead of singing and doing music or dancing themselves. They would be watching travel or food videos instead of traveling or cooking in person. All you need is a computer and a network. Isn't it so easy? A survey on Beijing University's new enrolled students found that more than 30% of students found study to be pointless, and 40% of students think life is pointless. Now, let me point it out for you. The Beijing University is supposed to be the best university in China, and students who can actually go into this uni supposed to be the top students all over China. Now, for Beijing University freshmen to have that kind of mentality, it must be an even worse situation in other Chinese universities. To sum it up a bit, Chinese young people's lying flat. It comes mainly from external factors. One is that the huge and insoluble social class gaps and conflicts in China. Secondly, under such disparity in class conflicts, the people at the bottom have no choice but lying flat to resist involution. As contemporary Chinese young people, the multiple pressures of employment, buying a property are also potential drivers of laybackism. As young people themselves, growing up in China under the rule of Communist Party, they are a sad and incomplete generation. China's deformed education system and the distorted, filtered internet network ultimately led to the spiritual emptiness in young people who should have been responsible and upright. This is the sorrow of a society and the sorrow of a communist country. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comment below. Alright, that's all for today. If you liked the video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching Beyond the News. I'm Faye. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you again very soon.